I've got it here.
Perfect. Hi there, I'm Dani, spiritual therapist. And on this lovely Sunday, I'm so excited to present to you two very good-looking, handsome, strapping, masculine friends of mine, also authors, also experiencers and researchers of life at large. The history of the world on and off planet really could be handled between these two beautiful gentlemen. The man with the very fetching tash and beard, oh, that would be both of them, but the man with the red nebula behind him is Tony Rodrigues. Tony, my darling, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Dani. Hello, everybody. I'm really good.
Good.
A little chilly where I'm at.
What's that nebula behind you? Where are you in space?
I believe the Orion Nebula. It's a picture of the trapezium that I just had in my, I think that star cluster is the trapezium in there.
That's wonderful.
And well, I mean, not to jump straight into people that might not know, but I was taken and served in a secret space program, and that was somewhere that we visited. So it's somewhere that I've been, and that's why it found its way. Like, I change my backgrounds all the time. I have a show that I do on Patreon, and I like to keep my backgrounds changing. And today I threw that up.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to come right back to you in a minute. I just want to introduce my other boyfriend in the screen, and that is the wonderful Brad Olsen. Good afternoon, Brad. How you doing?
Hey, Dani, doing great. Nice to be here with you two. Two of my favorite people in this community, and always looking forward to having a talk with you guys.
That's wonderful. So we've got a lot to cover today, and it's all really, really fascinating and really, really nice.
There it is.
Brad's always mocking the British because we say, oh, that's really, really nice. What makes the point of it? So Brad has also written a book, and it is called Beyond Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet. Now, amazing, amazing, amazing. This is your 10th book, right, Brad?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, before we get into the two books that you guys have created from your own life experience, your own true stories, I want to let all the beautiful viewers that will see this broadcast know that on my channel, which is Dani, D-A-N-I, Dani Spiritual Therapist, I have had the honor and the pleasure of actually interviewing Tony Rodrigues, and about from being a 10-year-old little boy, being taken by aliens, being used as a soldier, which we're going to get into, one-to-one video with him on my channel. And also Brad Olsen here is an actual explorer researcher and has been down to Antarctica. So the video on my channel with Tony is called The Little Boy Taken at 10. And the one with you, Brad, is called Secrets of Antarctica. Now, you're going to see, guys, why these two men are on screen at the same time. Not only are they friends, are we all friends, and really excited about promoting their books. There's going to be a lot of information they both have separately that actually crosses. And what this does, it builds a much bigger, truer, more honest picture of the actual history of planet Earth and the solar system. Now, Tony, my love, I want to come back to you. Can you give us a synopsis of your experience at 10 years old?
So, right, I can. I'll give you a quick, bullet points of what happened. And it ends up sounding so fantastic with, there's a lot of supporting evidence, and it's a long story to make sense because it's so far away from what we've been told, from the life of where the government, the mankind, the level of technology that mankind, what we're told is. So I think a lot of people watching already know. I was taken. I had come in contact with somebody that identified as the son of somebody that worked for an Illuminati. It's my dad's an Illuminati. And we were kids in school. And he pointed me out to his dad one day, and I was taken. The next night I was taken. I had a gray alien abduction, and I was taken. And I lived for 20 years in black programs and was sold from program to program. And eventually went into space colonies that we have inside the solar system that are organized into corporations. So, a Luna Corporation, Earth Colony Corporation, Mars Colony Corporation. And I was sold a couple times there and lived out the rest of a 20-year tour, which is a technology that they have where they can take people for 20 years and use a procedure to put them right back to where they were taken from, like age regression and then time travel. However I experienced it, but how they do it, I don't know. And then I woke up literally the next morning in my bed, and I felt like 20 years had passed, and I was lost in my home and in my life. And lived my life without those memories. They erase your memories. And in 2015, I had an MRI scan done. And a couple of weeks later, I came across the Randy Kramer information, and he explained the 20 and back. And a lot of breakthrough memories, bleed through memories that I had all along that didn't make any sense began to make sense. And I thought, oh my God, I always remembered being taken for one night. I always remembered the first 30 minutes of the abduction. And then then they erased those memories after. And when I realized that, all the memories came crashing back, and I began to check them out and work with researchers, and things that I remembered because I lived the first 6 years or so on Earth. And things that I remembered, places that I'd never been, I knew intimately because I'd lived there during that time. And things began to check out. And so with that, I thought, I can't take this to the grave, and I began to share it and do interviews. And now I have the book out that chronicles the whole thing. And I think that a lot of people that knew my story and followed, so I've way over 200 interviews on YouTube and other channels and radio shows and things. I've been on Cosmic Disclosure for Gaia, and I've a lot of interviews, but you can never cover all the events that happened in 20 years.
Yeah.
And so the book is kind of like puts everything in an order. And a lot of people are giving me feedback saying that they never knew, they never realized, you know what I mean, what happened because of the order it is. It jumps around in interviews, and I'm sure we'll jump around today. But
Yeah, exactly.
now there's a book about it with a timeline and everything
Yeah.
in there. So
Tony, your story is your life. I mean, this is your life experience. You're a little boy, there's a kid at school with a father who's an Illuminati. He's jealous of you, annoyed with you because he felt something you did was insulting. The next thing you wake up, there's a great alien in your bedroom or three. Your bedroom door's open, your mum and dad are across the hall, but you're paralyzed and you're taken on board a ship. Now, there are so many people, as we know, who are just going like, what? Their head cannot conceive of such a possibility. Even more so, most humans cannot possibly conceive of a technology that can take a child out of bed and use them off planet and in military programs for 20 years, when the very next morning that little boy is still in his bed and his mum and dad are still across the hall. That's where you lose a lot of people, obviously, because they have no concept of actual on and off planet technology that age regresses, time jumps, portals. Could you give a little bit more insight into how that technology that was able to elude you missing for 20 years can actually be, and what's it called?
So that's a mouthful. And so I don't want to eat up all the time that we have, but I have a few theories about it, because again, I always equate it to a surgery. Like if you have your spleen worked on or whatever, your kidney, you go and get a surgery, and then they put you back. You feel, you have a before and after. You know the effect. All of a sudden, you feel differently, but you don't know what happened during the surgery. So I'm left trying to piece together what happened to me. I think that there's a version of cloning, human cloning, that they use, and during that time, a lot of people are like, the first question I always get is, where were your parents when you were gone? And the thing is, I was back the next day. So that means that there were two of me on the same timeline. I was in Seattle and in Peru in the early 80s. I was taken in 82, and I was on the earth all the way to 86 to 88. And I lived in those years. So I knew songs on the radio that came out after I got back.
Wow.
Years later, I heard songs on the radio, and I knew the song.
Oh my
So
God.
they felt like old songs to me, and they were released. So that there's a real. So
Time
what I'm
travel.
saying is, even though I experienced living the life where I was abducted those 20 years first, and then went back to my normal life and lived that. Like that's the order that I remember it in. It wasn't, but during that time there were actually two of me, and I believe that I could have met myself. That I could have, if I would have gone to Seattle and been at a park, and the other me would have came up, I would have met myself. I did look exactly like I did. I wasn't like I was in some other body. It was not a past life. A lot of people are like, well, that was your past life memory. It wasn't, because of the entertainment, because I literally was living in the 80s and living the same time. And I have a great deal of memories about the time. It's not like a vague dream-like thing. I've got a lot of memories.
That's just
So there's a few things, and we were told in the programs that that's one of the first things that ET species trade with a species once they get into space, and they always ask for technology. That life extension technology is one of the first things that they trade. So that's would be very valuable if you think you were a government with an explorer in space that made contact. I'm sure the first thing they want is guns and surveillance and AI and everything, but they get the life extension technology is the first thing that's offered. Was my understanding.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much. Okay, Brad, I'm going to come to you, darling. You did an incredible journey. I've seen the presentation. Obviously, have our one-to-one interview on your work too. Brad, why did you write your current book, and what is it about?
Okay, so well, Beyond Esoteric is the third actually in a series on esoteric subjects. It was first Modern Esoteric and then Future Esoteric. Those came out 2013, 2014, have been in second edition and audiobooks now. And so all the while, 6 years working on this latest one, and all the while doing my travels, and was 3 years ago exactly that I was heading down to Antarctica. And so put that information in this book as well. Tony knows, he and I we're roommates at the last conference at 5D, and I travel a lot. I like to road trip. And so I drove out to Las Vegas in November. And when I was coming back, I was real fortunate to not only have reception for a video call, but also to have Tony pick up, because I went to one of his locations where he was in Inyokern, California. It happened to be right on the route I was driving back. So I was happy to get Tony on the phone, and we kind of walked through his memories of being in this location. Tony can tell you more about what he experienced there, but I found what he was talking about to be absolutely verifiable, and certain things he was talking about, such as little details like little boulders in a dry creek bed, that they were there. And Tony, you've never been to Inyokern, I don't think. And
that's right.
So when I was showing you this, and I was looking at your face, you're pretty moved by the experience. And he had me kind of pan up to these mountains, and I remember that, and was thinking that's where I could escape and things like that. So
oh my God.
I in a way, it was like, I'm not saying I didn't never believed you, Tony, but in a way, this really vetted your story, for me at least, being a researcher, to really better understand what you had to go through. And at conferences, I'm often asked to be a moderator on the Super Soldier Secret Space program. So I'm very interested in these testimonies and everything that you guys have to say and how it all ties together. I mean, I really think this is one of the most profound stories of our age, and that is people being taken often against their own will and going into these programs and having their memory swiped and coming back and remembering it all. And I know Randy Kramer too, and we've had many conversations, as well as James Rink and several others in the programs. And I know you guys have had very traumatic experiences by all this. And so much ridicule and having to defend yourself and so forth, that as a researcher who just looks at this objectively, to really delve into what you guys do and then have your information in my own books has been very helpful, and to me as a researcher, to hear your stories firsthand. And you know, when we were in the hotel room together having our conversations, saving your life with coffee one morning, I guess, and
totally
just going back and forth. To me, it was just a very profound and confirming experience that what you went through, Tony, was a very real experience.
Real and provable. For those that, sorry, go ahead, please, Tony.
Well, I was going to say the Inyokern trip was something that I was saving. So I really knew my way around a place in Seattle and Inyokern and a place in Peru. And I really wanted to go to Peru, to the town, and it's kind of off limits. It's somewhere out in the river towns in the jungle, and everybody, I had a friend that is from Peru and speaks Spanish, and I called him. I said, let's go. I want to go verify my, I didn't tell him that, but I just said, I want to go to this town. And he looked it up and he said, man, you can't go there. You're a gringo. There's illegal gold mining. He's like, it's worse then the Wild West, you cannot go there. So I can't, it's one area that I can't go to verify. I went
Wow.
to the house in Seattle and by myself. And if I would have had a film crew there, I would have had easily verifiable evidence of my story, because that's very important, Brad, what you're saying. There are so many people. So the other thing is, I'm not the only one. You know, if anybody's watching this, I'm saying this to anybody that's watching this, if it sounds far-fetched to you, believe me, I'm not the only one that's come forward with this information. There are thousands of people that are coming forward. I've had thousands of people contact me and say they went through something similar after my, but the thing is, not everybody had the luxury of somewhere on earth they could verify. And so verification is very, very important. It's a next tier up of getting the story out into the public. And so many people have have went through it. They're traumatized. They have the memories, but they have no verification other than circumstantial evidence, which is a lot of mine. I have tons of circumstantial, but I have a few things that are verified. When Brad went to Inyokern, I was saving that because it's somewhere I can prove that I never went. And he was literally walking up on a bridge, and I was there when I was 10. So everything is much bigger than what I remember. You know, I remember it large in my mind. I remember the buildings to be big because I was only a 10-year-old kid, the same way that when you go back to places. So he walked up to the bridge and I said, what's that, about 10 feet down, 12 feet down to the water? And he said, it was like 3. And I went, oh man, I remember it. And I said, but there's a bridge, there's rocks, there's like softball sized rocks in a dry creek bed. And he kept walking. He said, no, I don't see them. And I said, okay, we'll keep. And he kept walking up toward the gate, and about, I don't know, 30 feet of distance away, he was like, oh, there it is. There they are. And he showed him on, and I was like, you know, I don't want to say dub it, but I was choked up by that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I remembered looking, because my memory of being there in 82 is sitting in the back of a car looking out the window as we pulled in with despair, because I was going through a trauma-based mind control program to be inducted and enter into these programs, Black programs, to be sold. And so when I saw that, it was those, you know, that was like it always confirms to myself too. And people that have come forward, the confirmation, little things like that really are a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and because how could I have known that? And I can prove that I've never been there.
Right.
I mean, I have evidence, I have people in my life that can witness that I've never been to California, to that part of California in my life.
Yeah. So just so we remember that there are a lot more people coming into this kind of broadcast and kind of this, you know, it's their first, there'll be family members of mine, for example, that will be watching this particular broadcast because they're like, what? Time travel? Age regression? Taking a little boy out of his bed via aliens because somebody from the Illuminati ordered it? Yes, they're working hand in hand, guys. Hello. Truth bomb, or they were. And so then, you know, you're talking about Inyokern. Inyokern was an Earth military base that you and other little children who'd also been kidnapped and abducted were taken to, put through horrific torture. And then you were taken to the moon, you worked on the moon, and you also went to Ceres, the continent of Ceres, which is part of the title of your book again.
Yes.
So we're going to tie this all in very, very carefully and very gently, but I just do want to have a thought about those, because there'll be so many of the community that love you guys, they know who you are, they know your story, they'll be happy to see you on, you know, on a broadcast together because you're brothers. And but then, like I said, there are those that are going, what's this about? What am I watching? What's Inyokern? What are they talking about? You know, so the Black programs are military funded programs that aren't exposed to the public. They are hidden military. But like you said, you mentioned James Rink. I watched him. He's that white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair, I think, isn't he? He's got a super soldier. He's a super soldier himself, meaning that he was taken by the military and had things happen to him where he became a super soldier in a secret space program. And who was the other guy? Randy Kramer, did you say? Yeah, haven't come across him yet, but excited to. So like you said, there's so many super soldiers now, Tony, coming forward. It's like, you know, you can't kill them all. You know, the tsunami of disclosure is here. We're all in it, right?
I think that there's a very real threat to the information as well. So while, you know, people always ask me, so here's another question for here that comes up quite a bit. And, you know, Brad, I'm sure the subject is, you know, come across your desk at some point, but people go, well, how could he know all this stuff and speak about it? They would just kill him. How could you talk about this? They would off you or something. Well, the thing is, it was too late. I went literally from being researched to doing an interview really in a short period of time. So, and that at the time of the interview, my very first interview I ever did, I thought, do I really want to do this? And the researcher said, look, once the interview is out, nothing can happen to you because it just makes you a martyr. Like if I, heaven forbid, have something happen, I choke on a chicken bone, conspiracy theory people are going to be like, Tony was starting to say too much, and they offed him. So it's just going to make my information proliferate. But at the same time, so what would they do to silence the information is they're diluting it. People are being told they were super soldiers. There are many people coming forward with absolutely no memories,
fake memories,
because they're going to regret whatever to shows, or I don't know how it's happening. But there was a lot of people coming up to me and they go, well, I was in the program and I worked on the Pleiades and I did all this. I'm like, wow, so tell me what you remember. And I don't remember anything. And I'm going, well, how do you have all this information? Well, they told me I was.
the
And
quantum hypnotherapist that told them, was it?
And I want to say right now that doesn't necessarily mean that nothing happened, but I do see a concerted effort where they're trying to dilute the they dissipate the information by blanketing it with a lot of people that are maybe genuine, but just, you know what I'm saying, like diluted information. So that's really happening these days. It really is. And we have to be careful, because this information needs to not get buried under the cracks, because that allows the secrecy, lets them keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Brad, what's your comment on that? And also continue with
in here, because I just want to show you a map of the deep underground military bases in the US. And after New Mexico, California has the most amount of bases. And one of those is China Lakes, which is in view of Inyokern. They're almost like connected, and I'm sure probably underground they are. So China Lakes was notorious for human trafficking. So what Tony was saying about being taken there and going through some of the programs and then being transported in and out is very consistent with what a lot of other testimony and evidence was regarding China Lakes. And that was a deep underground military base, one of the most notorious, that was supplying children up to Bohemian Grove. They had a secret airport in Santa Rosa. It's since been closed down, but it was like a whole underground railroad network of moving humans around. Mm-hmm. And China Lakes was one of the worst. That deep underground military base got taken out on the 4th of July a couple of years ago. And it was even predicted by QAnon on the board was saying that something big is going to happen on the 4th of July. And overtly, when the mainstream media didn't pick anything up on it, nothing really came of it. But a massive earthquake hit Ridgecrest, California that day. And I was looking at the schematics of the underground seismic activity, because there was even a subsequent one that was just as big. I think it was 7.1 and 7.3. And the underground schematics showed it a perfect T going down over a mile. And look, Mother Nature doesn't work in perfect symmetry twice in a row. So that was probably the end of the underground base at China Lakes. On another road trip on my way to Vegas last year, I stopped in Ridgecrest. We were just right by the entrance to the China Lakes Naval Facility. Now, what's the Navy doing in the middle of the Mojave Desert, which is also kind of interesting? Well, they also have submarine access points through there, including to Henderson, Nevada, which is also a naval base, and submarines are seen coming up there in Lake Walker. So I was talking to some locals, just kind of loitering around a convenience store and gas station, and hey, were you guys here during the Ridgecrest earthquake? And they said, oh yeah, what happened? Well, not only was the power out for the town and the base, it shut the base down for over a week. And that's a big deal when you have a major military base that goes offline for a little bit. So those things are changing now as far as taking out the military bases. Anytime you see something at 10-kilometer depth at between 4.5 and 7.5 on the Richter, way deep down, but they're always 10 kilometers down, then it is most likely the tubes that connect the bases or the bases themselves. So there are big things that are happening behind the scenes. There really is a quiet war with silent weapons that's taking place right now.
Yes.
To get this out of the hands of the deep state, who's
Yeah.
basically had this control over these bases.
Yeah, and the world, all of the systems above us. Okay, Brad, it's very important because I'm taking us on a bit of a journey and you guys are doing beautifully. And thank you so much for just sharing. But there's a lot of people that don't understand or don't know, have never heard of the true history of the planet and the true history of the solar system. And a group of people from a certain country who have been very prolific in negative ways of kind of instilling themselves and taking over and running things. So Brad, let's talk a bit about your exploration to Antarctica, the south, right? And let's also go into the names of the places and why they would be named such.
I did an interview with Patriot Underground last night, and it's starting to go viral right now. And he brought that up too. What's with the name Omicron and Delta Island and Deception Island? I did go to Deception Island. It's a big volcanic crater, but it was named because the entrance into a protected harbor within a caldera of a volcano has a deceptively shallow reef that has sunk several ships, and you'd be in a lot of trouble if you hit that. But my point was, there are dozens or hundreds of names of islands down there, and it just so happens a few of these are names from the Greek alphabet. So as I told Patriot last night, I wouldn't put too much credibility in that, because you don't hear about all the 100 other names that have islands down there. And there are quite a few islands off of the Palmer Peninsula. And so that's where I went via sailboat out of Ushuaia, Argentina, with my partner Emily Infinity at the time, who does the Detroit Disclosure Conference that Tony's been a speaker at for 2 years. And so we were going down there to look into all the possibilities of craft under the ice, pyramids poking through, to antediluvian civilizations. And what I can tell you is that it is the most volcanically active continent in the world. 91 known volcanoes, including, as I said, Deception Island. Had we been there during low tide, we could have taken our clothes off and taken a hot spring in Antarctica. So just a lot of weird little anomalies like that. But we asked everybody we could, went to 6 different bases, all research bases. There's not a military presence there. I think that's a bit of a misnomer. They're hiding very well because the other countries would tell on them. And the bases that we went to are mostly marine biologists or studying migration patterns of animals or climate change. And then there are parts of Antarctica that are changing rapidly, but there are also parts that are freezing rapidly and getting more snow. So somehow, in Mother Nature's infinite wisdom,
herself out.
Yeah, it balances itself out. And that's why Miami Beach hasn't been inundated with water, or where I'm at right here, a mile away from the coast in Santa Cruz, where boardwalk is still open today for business, and people are riding the 1907 Giant Dipper roller coaster as they have been for over 100 years.
Oh, beautiful. Brad, I would love you please to speak and just cover briefly Project Paperclip, Operation High Jump, the names of the other bases and towns that you went to, and then we're going to link that into Tony's experience on series.
Sure. Well, Project Paperclip was the program in post-World War II to take all the Nazi, not only rocket scientists like Hermann Oberth and Werner von Braun, who helped start up NASA, but also who should have been on the Nuremberg War Tribunal. Reinhard Gehlen helped start the CIA, and also the MK Ultra psychiatrists. So we have been infected with this sort of Nazi fascism. I call it neo-fascism in the first section of my book, for over 70 years. And I think that's the root of the problem, and who the philosophical note that the globalists take, this whole notion of eugenics and starting to water down the herd, so forth. I know there's words we can't say here.
Yeah.
And then, so this was the rise of the Fourth Reich in America. And when I say America, I don't mean not only North America with the paperclip Nazis, but also South America. And when I was in South America, going to and from, driving down to Ushuaia, Argentina, looking into a lot of the places that are very dramatic down there in Argentina and Chile, including massive land holdings that still are like micronations. You can't get into them, and they run their own show. And interestingly enough, they're Germanic speaking, and Germans have all the money down there too. I've been to Germany many times, and walking into some of these towns like La Falda and Bariloche was like stepping into a barbarian town. I mean, it's just uncanny how much it looks like it, and why they would appreciate that. So at the end of World War II, not only did you have a lot of these high-ranking Nazis, SS, fleeing through the rat lines and being assisted by the Vatican and the Red Cross to get these guys out of there, give them new identities, give them some money, and have new lives. And many escaped justice. And I do believe Hitler himself also. And so the Antarctica question was, they had this big base there. They called it the New Berlin base. I mean, it was going to be the Fourth Reich headquarters. And a lot of this technology was never recovered in the Skoda Works, was the location where they were doing a lot of their backward engineering technology. But these crafts started popping up all over the place, including the Battle of High Jump with Admiral Byrd. And we were routed, absolutely routed. So Admiral Byrd hightails it out of there 2 months into the 6-month expedition. And he quipped to a reporter on the way out and said, "Look, I don't want to scare everybody here, but we will be faced with an enemy that can fly pole to pole at incredible speeds." And as far as I know, Tony, we haven't been announced any craft that can fly pole to pole yet. I'm sure they can, and they have, and they will, and they've done it. But that was really the nature of the flyover of the Capitol in 1952, which was just a few years after High Jump. Those were the Antarctica Nazi fleet flying over our most sensitive military headquarters, saying, "Look, like MC Hammer, you can't touch this." And we couldn't touch this. And they basically had to strike a deal with them. And that's how, again, how this neo-fascism helped infect this nation, and hence the problem we're still in today.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much there for kind of taking us on that little journey, or huge, massively historical journey of Project Paperclip to Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd, etc. And then the Nazis who had reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology, or just been shown directly, because there was a deal made between the humans and the nefarious aliens or other people from other civilizations, which has come to light. And now millions and millions of people are waking up this phenomenal understanding and getting out of there. "Oh no, that's not true. Oh no, what are you, mad? Are you a loony? I was accused of being a loony myself today. I got one of those and one of those. I don't care," because it's time. It's time. We have to be speaking out about what we've all experienced individually. Thank you for clarifying that the German Nazis went to one of the places, Antarctica, and have a town called New Berlin, New Schwabenland, and many others. Now, Tony, darling, part of your journey being taken through the programs was to go to Ceres. Can you talk about where Ceres is? And can you talk about the kind of people there and what they're actually called and how that links up to Antarctica, please?
Sure. It was a shock to me. So I had gone through several of these programs on Earth. I was sold off to the military, which was a branch of the United States military, and taken to bases on the back of the moon, which is, boom, when you say that, it's like, it's hard to even speak it. And I like to speak to people that are watching this as if they don't believe. what I'm saying, because I like to present evidence behind it.
Mhm.
I was taken, there's tons of evidence. There's evidence in my book that links the Douglas aircraft to moon missions, to the ability to fly to the moon from early on. I want to remark on what Brad said about when he showed the picture of that UFO, and he said that in 52, that's when those flights were happening. You know, back then, you could speak about UFOs and no one would ridicule you. When that happened, everybody believed it. And they really started an disinformation campaign that was very effective in making everybody laugh and say that there's no life out there, there's no UFOs, and they really associated people that were, either crazy or just low IQ, whatever they wanted. They associated the subject with something bad. So when anybody talks about it, that's the first thing that goes off in your head. People are afraid to speak about it, literally. And like you said, Brad, so we do have craft that fly pole to pole. They announced it this year, the UAPs. I saw it on Fox News. I couldn't believe my eyes. They were showing Navy pilots with footage of a craft that was going in and out of the water at faster than sound. That, it's supersonic speeds flying into the water and back. The Pentagon had a report on it. They had a commission about it. It was on the news. They admitted that UAPs exist, and what an unidentified aerial phenomenon, that these are craft and they do things that we can't understand. And we had crickets chirping from everybody, from academia all across the board. They literally came out and said, look, there's UFOs. And here's what they're doing. They're flying better than we can't even figure out what they're doing. And so the whole that whole subject matter has been decimated because now they've officially announced they're real. And really nobody batted an eye. People are afraid to speak about it because you're supposed to ridicule those people. You're supposed to ridicule. We're on a subconscious level. We think that that's what's going on. I know I'm not getting to the point of the question you asked.
No, it's important. You are.
Ceres is a dwarf planet, and it's in between the Mars and the asteroid belt, and it has an elliptical off-axis orbit. When I was taken into space to the moon, I was sold off to the Mars Colony. Well, I was trained for a program on the Mars Colony Corporation, and with other people that I spoke to, they've come up with a number of something like 10.5 million people are living on Mars as we speak, or inside Mars, to be more accurate. So 10.5 million people. There was the brain drain during I believe the 60s, when a lot of people, the brightest and best people from college, just came up missing. And the running theory is that they were taken to Mars to work for corporations on Mars. I was taken there and I served in a program for a short time. And when that program was canceled, I was retrained. I took aptitude tests inside a city that was under the ground on Mars with ETs and personnel from all over the world, people from Europe, people from America, and military personnel. And I was retrained to do ship maintenance, and then sold off to the Ceres Colony Corporation, which is a settlement of about 250,000 people that live inside the Ceres planetoid. And I lived my last 12 years or so of that 20-year tour on Ceres working for them. And they are predominantly German, post-World War II Germans, or the Deutsch code. They don't call themselves Germans. They call themselves the Deutsch. And they had Franks. They had a money system. They had ETs that they entertained. There were 2 other species that lived there on the planetoid. And I eventually became a cargo engineer and worked on interstellar trade flights. And we went all over the galaxy. We went to several other galaxies, and we could do so and return in the same day. It wasn't a long flight at all. The technology is as such. They've traded with ET races, and they are sponsored by a negative ET race that is they call the Orion Group. And that's how they got their technology. And basically it's about power output. They had their ships with enough power output to make Einstein-Rosen portals and instantly go from our system to other star systems in our galaxy. Bless you, Dani.
Thank you. Excuse me.
And that's what I did. And at the end of my time there, I was taken and put back to the moon and went through surgical procedures and put back into my house back in 1982 and woke up the next day. And so, but they were basically a German breakaway group. When I got off the shuttle, it was a train system that portaled from Mars to Ceres Colony. When I stepped off the train, I was fully aware that I was on a different planet because the dirt, the walls, everything was completely different, the construction. And I was standing in a room with the hundreds of German people in military uniforms. And it was like an assembly day. It was like a day where they were assembling. It was like the first day of boot camp or whatever. And I worked there for the next 12 years and lived basically like in a prison system there as slave labor. So along comes, the other research. These are things that I remembered these things all in 2015 and then spoke about them and then discovered the research, linking the Germans up there. So I'd heard about it vaguely before, but then all these memories came back. It's not something that's vague to me. I lived there and I had a great deal of life. I had friends, I had relationships, I had a career. There's a great deal of time I spent there, and these are not vague, slight memories. I have a great deal of memories. The things I can't remember that they seem to have erased greatly are names. Names of the streets. There were names of, restaurants, streets, people, alien races. I can't remember the names. I can remember a lot of the things that I saw, and I tend to remember emotional times, times that were emotionally stimulating, where, something good happened, something bad happened. Those days, those are the memories that are the clearest.
Yeah, they get imprinted on the cellular memory. This is so mind-blowing. And again, for those that want more of the story, please hold up your book, because you've just dedicated your entire time, Tony, to writing this book about your experiences, Ceres Colony Cavalier, about your time on the Ceres Colony.
It just came out this month. It's on Amazon. People were having a hard time finding it within the Amazon site. So if you go into Amazon and Google and put the search, it doesn't come up. But if you go to a Google prompt, it comes up. Or if you go to my website, TonyRodrigues.com, there's a link there that goes straight to the book sales. And it's number one still this week.
Amazing.
For 3 weeks now, number one new release.
Amazing. Tony,
I
like
really
said,
had a hard.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, I just wanted to say that I really had a hard time writing the book, and I'm so happy it's over, because there's so many things that are hard to explain that I can just say, look, it's in the book now. And the process of writing it. So talking about something in an interview like this, talking about the trauma mind control thing in InnoCurrent, going through that program is one thing. Writing it down and where it exists somewhere else outside of your mind, writing it down is a completely different thing. And I relived a lot of those emotions, and it was very, very difficult. And so many other people that I work with, people on the side, I work with people, I do consultations that have similar memories, and they have the same thing. They put blocks in you at the end, they call parting gifts. And there are people that once they start they can read and write, talk about what they remember, but they write it down, they go right to sleep. And these are people that are very astute and they're very literate people. But when they talk about this subject matter, there's a block there. And so it was a very difficult thing. It took me the better part of 6 years to get that book done. It's not as dense as Brad's. I have your book, Beyond the Esoteric. It's very dense, very well written, and it's a great deal of great work. And it's just a huge work. And mine is a much faster read. A lot of people are reading the book very quickly, but it was very difficult. Each line was kind of painful to get out. So after that, I'll be moving on and, just remark on what I've learned since then. I never meant to be a researcher, but coming forward and speaking about this subject publicly has turned me into a de facto researcher, because people reach out to me. So.
Well, your information is just so incredibly important. I'm so happy, as billions of others will come to understand how important it is that you stepped forward, that you did give us all this information, that you are absolutely sharing and proving your knowledge of going from Earth to the moon to Ceres Colony. Did you travel to any other planets? And also, can you share a little bit about what the alien species or the extraterrestrials or the other people from other planets look like in brief? And then we'll come back to you, Brad.
There are many infinite versions of people. And so the Ceres Colony had them grouped into classifications. So there's the work of the law of one, where they classify consciousness by densities. So first density is like bacteria and insects and grass. And then second density is like animals and, your dogs, cats, kind of consciousness. We are third density beings, humans on Earth, 100-year lifespan. There's a fourth density according to the law of one, and a fifth and sixth, and so on. The Germans, the Deutsch there had their own classification. They're humans, or, animal, human, subhuman, human, meta-human, uber-human, ultra-human. So these were all conscious levels of existence that they were aware of that live on other planets. So that we are not the top of the food chain per se, as far as consciousness goes. And there are very advanced and when I say very advanced, I mean mentally acute. They live 1,000 years and they live very long lives, and they have a great deal of mental ability to where they can actually, they have psychic ability and can dominate you when you're in the room with them. Because we have a certain level of consciousness, and there are other entities in the universe that have a great deal of consciousness that can affect matter. They have so much mental acuity they can actually affect matter and in fact travel without technology. There were 2 separate ET races. I have some artist renditions in my book that lived on Ceres. They were taller, they had elongated skulls, big eyes, and they did tech work. They worked on the aircraft there. There were disc-shaped craft, there were triangle-shaped craft, and there were larger cargo ships, and in fact, triangle-shaped battleships that did come into Ceres colony. There was a large hangar area that was something like 19 kilometers big. That was just one of many that I was aware of that our hangar was at, where they parked the ships. It was a giant ship-sized airlock that the ships would come in a cold trap, what's called a cold trap, inside a crater, inside another crater, that the sunlight never shined on the doors. And the ships would enter, and then we would taxi in for a few, and then it had its own parking stall, and we would get out into the atmosphere and then go take trains into the colony. Everything was connected by train. But there was another tall, like a 9-foot species that ran all the businesses there, and they preferred lighter gravity. There was artificial gravity. The Ceres planetoid is only 580 miles in diameter, if I'm saying that right, like 580 miles. It's a small microgravity environment, so they had artificial gravity. That technology is basically based on exotic elements that they trade for that are found elsewhere in the galaxy that they bring. There were several other, we traded with many different species. There were blue species. We came to Earth. There were inner Earth species that we traded with. There were humans, and then had pale blue skin that we traded with. We came to Earth, to Diego Garcia. We went to the Catarina Mountains in South America and Brazil. And we went to Antarctica. There was, under the ice, there was a base in Antarctica they called the High Command. And we would go there, and we were subject for inspection for our ship. We did go to the Kuiper Belt for where we kept storage, and then to places around Jupiter. There's a great deal of activity, extraterrestrial activity around Jupiter. There are many satellites of Jupiter, many settlements there, because it's a trade hub for our area of our neck of the galaxy. And it was a very busy area. We would go to Jupiter quite often, almost every day, and then go to other star systems. I saw ETs that looked like a version of a human crossed with like a rat, like a rodent. I saw other ETs that lived their entire life. They were exactly like us humans. I saw other ETs that were feline in appearance, that looked like, kind of like a human with a cat-like mouth. And just, there's so many. The reality is that something like 7 out of 10 stars in the cosmos has an Earth around it. And NASA right now, so we were talking off camera. I want to touch on this, and I don't want to hog the mic, but I just want to make this point, Danny, because you said off camera that you've got people that are like, you can't believe you believe in aliens. And where that's come from is from back when I was a kid. You can look, any kid can look at a picture of all the stars and go, well, of course there's life out there. We only have one star. We've really only explored one star system. And I'm talking about us, right, our academic right now, we're batting 100. All the life we're aware of is in this one star. So it's 100 for 100. It's not, there's only life here and there's no life anywhere else. That science has hidden that from us. So NASA, back when we were kids, I said, well, how do you know there's no life out there? There's got to be, look at all the stars. And they said, look, we don't know. The scientific method has to have based on proof. So they have to prove it. We don't even know there's planets around stars. This was in, the 80s. There were in my early school career, early school years, in the late 70s and early 80s, science said, well, look, we can't prove that there's planets around any stars. So for all we know, there's only a handful of planets. So the odds of life being out there are very slim and to none. So we're not going to say there's chances of life. It wasn't until like 2002 they discovered exoplanets with they could watch a star and see it wobble when a planet went by, well, a very large planet would change it. And they said, wow, they proved that there are exoplanets, and they started to get a number. Now they have we've got the Kepler scope, and there are other telescopes, and they invented something called polarized spectrometer. I can't say, I'll butcher the word, polarized spectrometer. And what this does is when a planet passes in front of the star, they can analyze the light and tell that there was some dirt that went in front of it. So now we're up to like, NASA says there's a planet in the habitable zone, 5 out of 10 stars or something like that. That's the ratio. But the reality is there's an Earth, 7 out of 10 stars has an Earth. So now there's an extrapolated number that says, of course, there's life out there, because there are so many planets, and they're all in the habitable zone, because that's really what they're looking for, is water, liquid water, to spawn life. And now NASA is like, the actual official stance of academia is that, of course, there's life. There's so many trillions of stars, and so now we have a formula for how many. So anybody that believes that there's not aliens is actually the fool these days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just a quick word on NASA. Me, myself.
Sorry, I'm on a rant.
No, it's great. It's great. It's important. You know, we're putting together and mapping all of the realities and truths that you've actually experienced, that Brad's actually researched and experienced. And you know, I'm extremely cross with NASA. You know, I mean, someone calls it never a straight answer, you know, right. Somebody, like, I was in the space industry, as you guys know. I had my own space agency. I recruited the top space scientists and engineers and builders across the entire world. So also having a look into what's real and what's not in that respect. And I cannot believe the little minuscule spoon feeding NASA, the breadcrumbs that NASA throws out to humanity, and everyone's going, oh, that's amazing. Or do you think there's water up there, Mildred? No, Nora, no, because NASA said no. You know, oh my God, can we be done now, please? Stop insulting, you know, just because they don't have the intelligence, the emotional intelligence, to accept that we are these passionate, beautiful beings that have had our own experiences. Oh my God. Hello, you know, now we're all talking, now we're all bringing it through. Bradford, I want to know more about your book, mate. Come on, bring it. Give us some of the good stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. Similar to the other two before it, it has 3 sections. Starts out with the neo-fascism chapters. I think this is very important, that people have to understand the situation that we're in to be able to go to the next stage, and that see all the subjects that have been withheld from us in the embargo section, and then the Ubermind, how we are advancing, we are evolving, even in these bodies in this lifetime, we're changing. And some of it has to do with if we allow ourselves to make those changes, if we allow ourselves to evolve. I think we are going to see one of the greatest transformations in the human race, the great leap forward, even in our lifetimes. This is really the destiny of the human race. And to take it one step further, I think we're all born at a period of time where we can make a contribution to that great leap forward, that we can be a part of this wonderful change. And maybe a lot of us have volunteered for this mission, because look, it's not an easy life down here on Prison Planet. A lot of people get sucked into the trappings of the material age, but also some of us who have had experiences off planet, not just this lifetime like you, Tony, but who have memories of being in different solar systems on different planets, to come here to Earth in this real dense 3rd dimensional duality in your face all the time. It's real hard for some people to deal with this. And that's why with the indigo children, a lot of them just withdrawal or can't handle it and can't live up to their ideals and what they were coming here for. And unfortunately, some of those fall through the cracks. But those who do, who kind of see, hey, this is a mission, I'm here to help awaken humanity, or whatever it is that each individual is here for. And I do believe every single life is very important and everybody has their own personal mission. And look, this is between you and yourself, really. So when you die, when you pass out of this body, it's not being judged by God or St. Peter's or whoever else that mythology has told us. It's you seeing your own life in review and seeing all the good that you have done, but also the pain that you may have inflicted on others. This is what I call the real philosopher's stone here, is once you start to realize that every action, even every thought, is very important to stay on the positive and the helpful and the love vibration, all these higher emotions, that is going to be how you judge yourself, really. So leave me out of it. I'm working on myself. I'm knowing thyself. I love those two words from the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, know thyself. That's what it's all about. And so I get into that kind of information and beyond esoteric and a whole lot more. As Tony says, it's dense book. There's lots of information. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't like having my time wasted. I try to stick to just pure data, pure information, and help others understand this incredible period we are in human history. And just in a little context of who the human race is, there's still uncontacted tribes deep in the Amazon jungle and in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. They're still living in the Stone Age. They're getting their dinner with a blow dart tonight. And they're still living off of just the abundance of the jungle, basically. And then we have people like Tony and others who are part of the secret space program that have lived off planet. So the human race is just so widely diverse. And you and I, Dani, somewhere in the middle of all this, to have this experience, this human experience, I think it's not only a real honor and a privilege if you can handle with what's going on here on Prism Planet. But let's say we can do this. Let's say we can shake the yoke of these globalists and move on towards this prophesized golden age of abundance, this 1,000 years of peace and prosperity. Then the Prism Planet becomes a Prism Planet. And that is our ascension into 5D. And that's what I think, if we can be alive and see this happen, will be the most glorious period in human history. And we're so very close. We're just right there on the cusp. We just got to get over a couple of these speed bumps and we're there. And then humans will make this great leap forward. And then I think we can openly sit at the table with the benevolent ETs and really work on our Star Trek future. And that's really who we are, a spacefaring species that goes about and explores this universe for benevolent reasons.
And the children, the children to come, the children, not just too far down the road, that will be learning everything in the universe that we should have been taught, that's been held back from us. There's a scene in Dory, the Dory underwater story, Dory, Finding Nemo. There's a beautiful scene where all the children are jumping on the back of a stingray to go off on a science expedition. And to me, in my mind, that's how I see this natural world coming to the point of, because we've already had the technology, anti-gravity technology, meaning that we could have and have created flying UFOs, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, as Tony mentioned earlier. We have the technology already. Once the leadership that's been holding the reins of my planet, your planet, our planet, I didn't invite them and put them there. How very dare they? They are being taken down. All the systems are collapsing, and we know that. We're seeing the proof everywhere. I mean, the dark ones can no longer play whack-a-mole. There's too many moleys coming out of the ground. It's like, no, you sit down and shut up. You've been very naughty and we're coming for you. I just wanted to say as well, haven't the Germans been busy? Oh my God, on and off planet, seriously. They've left their mark everywhere, have they not? And again, coming back in reality to World War II, we're talking about the little Nazi bastard shitheads, not the lovely German people, but the Nazi bastards, you know, and they will be pulled onto the rug and they will all be held accountable, most definitely. No one gets away with anything. Now, one more thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is, you're both laughing because you think I'm going to kick off, don't you? I'm going to try and restrain myself to say, I think people are waiting for it now. It's embarrassing. My brother told me off for going off. He's like, what's happening? I'm like, what? Because you're very passionate. I'm like, I am. Oh, I love people. You know, anyway, so I'm thinking of his words from earlier, but yeah, it's probably not going to be able to to happen. But one of the things that's always really bothered me about the psychological trauma-based mind training that every single human has is people say, oh, that's just your karma. Now, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to put somebody across my knee. I am convinced that that is a psyop. Honestly, that it's a ridiculous just distraction to go, oh, well, you must have done something in your past life and now you're paying for it now. Now, whether that's true or not, people are literally living and accepting. Acceptance is acquiescence. Acquiescence is rolling over and just doing as you're told. I vote rebuke authority in all its guises. That's my own personal feeling on it. No one has the authority to tell me what to do or anybody else what to do. And where we're also moving mentally, emotionally, psychologically is to a understanding that every single human adult child has a voice. We listen to the children. What do you need? How can we love you? How are we not listening to you? What do you need to say? And for the adults to be working together, never, ever a king, a queen, a leader, a ruler. No, away with you, off with your heads. No, we're not putting up with that shit anymore. We lead from within, Brad, as you said. We're at this absolute perfect internal own disclosure. Who am I? What am I? We've all had, I speak for myself, as extraterrestrial, on and off planet experiences, ghosts, paranormal, fairies, you name it, all of these beautiful phenomena of natural planet Earth. Many of us have had all of these experiences, but don't talk about them because you'll go into the loony bin. And again, no more now. We're all exposing, expressing, and talking. I'm so proud of you guys for so many different reasons, but your books in particular, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on together, and again, to remind people, there are individual interviews I've done with Brad Olsen and Secrets to Antarctica, and his book, Escaping Prison Planet, which is part of the Beyond Esoteric Trinity. And then Tony Rodrigues, we have a one-to-one private interview on my channel, Dani's Spiritual Therapist, again, discussing his from being kidnapped, abducted by grey aliens as a little boy to the present moment and bringing out his book, Series Colony Cavalier. But anyway, I wanted to ask you guys, is there anything in particular at this moment that you really, really want to share? Knowing I've got 2 strikes from boob tube, one of those and one of those to boob tube. But, you know, it's like, what don't we say? I don't even know why they took me down twice. How very dare they? But yes, I really want to kind of hand the floor over to you beautiful boys, men, gorgeous hunks of fine specimens of humans. Yes, what would you like to say, either of you, right now?
Brad, you go first.
Well, I'd just say that we live in a very complex world. Much has been withheld from us. So much, probably over 90% of the really good, juicy subjects that could really help humanity have just been withheld. And now this is all coming out. So stories like Tony's and others in the programs, we should give them some credibility. We should look at what they have to say, because this is just a tip of the iceberg of what has been withheld from us. And we are moving towards our Star Trek future. Yes, it's been hijacked from us, but that's going to change. And we could be going out in space for the benefit of science and technology in the very near future. You know, us 3 were all at the Mount Shasta Summer Conference last summer, and the great Alex Collier finally came out of his self hibernation, and boy, what a great guy he is. And he has been, since a young man as well, been in touch with was it Octurians or
Andromedans.
Andromedan? Yeah, and one of the things he said is they hold nothing back from each generation. It's called the laws of consistency. And that's really what humans have to become, that there will be no more secrets, and that we're going into this age of transparency in which these higher emotional vibrations, love and charity, compassion, are going to be embraced by all humanity. And then we will start to tap into these superhuman abilities, including telepathy, in which Alex Collier has been getting his information from the Andromedans. And this will be part of this golden age that we're entering. And I just look forward to the next 50 years of my life and just seeing it all transpire and talking to really luminary people like yourselves and learning from your experiences and what you have to say too, because we're really all in this together, and nobody's really the highest authority in all this.
That's right. That is right. No one, not one person in the disclosure community, as it's called, you know, oh, let's have a label. We're just telling the truth. Everyone's telling their truth and not holding back. But no one owns the information. No one owns the intel. And if there was one person that we were to look at in the last 50 years, who's given information from the Andromedan Council, from other partial, you know, stories and information from off planet, it is Alex Collier. It is Alex bloody Collier. Yes. Tony.
Wow, that's okay. That's a lot. I would say this, like, I personally, and it's not, I don't want my beliefs, I'm not pushing my beliefs or anything. I personally do believe in reincarnation. I believe that we are greater than the sum of our parts, and that there is a consciousness that moves on, and there's a great deal of evidence supporting it. There's so many testimonies of children being born with intimate knowledge of past lives that check out. And so I do believe in that. And I believe that if you're going to incarnate into a species, a society on a planet, that this is absolutely the greatest time, pre and post disclosure. We could get a disclosure and join a galactic community in our lifetime. And this would be the most exciting lifetime out of all of them. So we're very privileged people in that regard. I believe that there are a lot of power struggles still going on. We're seeing them play out politically across the world. But we are seeing the large players that start making moves to join a galactic community. And, you know, we're seeing the power grid being changed. We're seeing social reform. We're seeing moves that make sense to join a galactic community and start being acceptant of not only of ourselves advancing. You look at the kids nowadays, and they're very much more open-minded than we were when I was a kid. Like the society told us to be closed-minded, and nowadays the kids are very open-minded. So I think I see a lot of things going in the right direction towards a disclosure. I also see a lot of things that are alarming. And so that's where we're at in the world right now. And I think that this information, Brad's information, my information, and others, there have been so many that have come forward. I used to tell people that when they ask me, what should I do with this information? I feel like I was been involved. I say, well, just, you know, whatever you follow your heart, whatever you feel. But nowadays, I'm saying to share this information, talk to it, normalize. We've been taught on a subconscious level by subliminal means to ridicule extraterrestrial life and anything about the subject. We've been taught to immediately giggle at it and point fingers at it. We have to undo that immediately, and we have to make this normal. We have to normalize this conversation, and you need to spread it, because that is how it's going to seep into the global collective. When we can normalize talking about UFOs, UAPs, we've already been on the news, and my account, people being abducted, it's very widespread. It's not just me. I'm not the only one saying this. We need to normalize this conversation, and it will accelerate the disclosure, you know, when the collective can handle it, because we're all basically in touch with each other on a subconscious level. We're all part of the same level of frequencies of life. And so we need to, what you set your mind to spreads. You know, there are so many instances in history of people inventing the same thing at the same time, because subconsciously they're connected.
Yeah.
Because the need was there, and those are, you know, we're connected, whether we want to admit it or not. And there is science behind it, there's evidence behind it. But what I'm saying is we need to make this subject we need to interject the subject into the mass consciousness so that it just speeds along, because we're going to be better for it at post-disclosure. We really are.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. If you remember, like when we were children, it was very natural for us to be told about fairies and mermaids and, you know, space warriors and all the rest of it, and the tooth fairy, etc., Father Christmas, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. All of us grew up with these pre-programmed, you know, myths and legends that we were told is real. And then at a certain point, probably around the age of 7, it's knocked out of you. And what we're doing now is really inviting each other and ourselves to reverse engineer, re-educate and recognize those feelings and emotions, because the more that your third eye, your brain, your whole being is open, the more you can see the dimensions. It's so easy to see the beings, you know, just by literally going outside, looking between yourself and the sky, looking at the air particles in between with your eyes slightly dimmed, out of focus, so the brain's not focusing on what it's doing, it's relaxing itself into a different kind of gaze. There's so much information. I'll be doing more broadcasts on that subject too, to help more people, but we've got to be sharing everything we know to be true. Just want to say also, at this present time, it's very much becoming a bit of a trend, unfortunately. And there's some very, very uneducated humans who go, oh, I'm going to get on that bandwagon. Oh, yeah, I had an alien experience. Yes, here's my book, you know, that's copied and pasted from somebody else. You know what I mean? We have to be very mindful. This is also happening. And even if someone's been bringing amazing information, all of a sudden you see them take a right-hand turn. We have to be cognizant of that. Humans can be hacked. Information can be overtaken internally and, you know, like a possession or a hacking or a whatever. We have to be careful at this time we're in. People that were looking through the looking glass, looking at what was going to happen, knew that there were going to be people in the movement who are infiltrators, liars, cheaters, who start out great and lovely. That's why we have to think for ourselves, as Brad was saying. Think for ourselves, discern for ourselves, feel into, do I believe that? Do I trust ourselves? Brad, any final words, my darling?
I just look forward to seeing you guys again at a conference, perhaps down in Florida this November. October, even better. Yeah, let's do this thing, and we just do what we do, right? You be the best person you can be. It's kind of like the old saying among the Buddhists: before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. Just keep it on, but be the best person you can be. Try to be pure in your thoughts and your actions, and all the rest will follow. And look, this is it. This is the big dance, and we're all in this together. So let's make the most of our time and be the best we can be, and just help keep spreading this truth to everybody who will listen. And people are waking up at different speeds. And this is why CNN is not even getting the ratings that some of the alternative media are. I mean, we are becoming the new media because people are just sick of being lied to. And
yeah,
they're smarter than you think they are. And they're waking up just as we're waking up and seeing this big cacophony of sights and sounds and colors and the great universe all around us coming into clear vision. And what you do with it is up to you as an individual. And hopefully everybody's going to make the most of their time now.
Definitely. Brad Olsen, thank you so much. Tony Rodrigues, any final words, my love?
That was beautiful, Brad, by the way. So you're absolutely right. The Buddhist saying, I love that. I just want to say that there are a lot of people that see this, they seek these videos out because they have certain things that they remember that they can't figure out. And I try my best to work with people. I have a memory course, and I just want to plug my website, TonyRodrigues.com. And a lot of people reach out to me, and I do work on the side for that. And I get a lot of positive feedback. I hear a mixture of wonderful and alarming and terrible things from people. So these programs, because of the secrecy, they get away with it. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much secrecy. So that's why it's a mission to speak about it. But to people that are watching, they've all been involved. When I first got my memories back, I had nowhere to turn to. I was all alone. and it was terrifying, because I knew I wasn't crazy, and I knew that what I was remembering was real because I began to find the things. So it's a very hard, difficult time. So that is why I set up the website, and I couldn't keep up with everybody just on Facebook. So there's a website. So I'd like to say that, and I'm just very happy that you had me here. I also look forward to the conferences. The conferences are awesome. If you've never been to a conference on this subject, you should get out and try it. Any conference. The people are the real show. The crowd is the real show, because everybody brings so much information that you don't get to see in the mainstream. And it's there, every conference I've been to, I've been amazingly impressed by everybody there. So yes, I would love to, I can't wait to go to some more. So
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I love you guys so much. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy that you came to play on a Sunday afternoon. And just before we wrap up, I just want to remind the beautiful people that will see this broadcast that Tony Rodrigues is the boy who was kidnapped by grey aliens as a child, taken off planet, worked on the moon, worked on the colony of Ceres. His book is called Ceres Colony Cavalier. If you want to hold your book up one more time, I'm going to put all the links underneath, guys, so you'll be able to get it. But that's what it looks like. There we go, Ceres Colony Cavalier. And it gives his whole life story. And it's just incredible and moving. And as he said, it was very, very difficult and very cathartic for Tony to actually be able to write and put on paper. And we thank you, Tony, so much for this. We really, really do. And then Brad Olsen has a series of books, Intel from Across the Planet, Research, Antarctica, Germany. I mean, just incredible. And then we're promoting your last one, if you'd like to hold it up, Beyond Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet. And you just did a wonderful, wonderful broadcast with Dr. Michael Saller, who we all massively love and respect. So anyone that wants to have a look at that should go to Dr. Michael Saller's YouTube channel, right? Oh no, his website, yeah, drmichaelsaller.com. And right, and there, did he do an interview with you, Tony? I don't remember. Yes, so yep, he's just so great as well. Great. Okay, and he's another fantastical historian, researcher, where he researches the science, the military aspects and the galactic aspects, and really does his due diligence before he puts anything out. So he's a real good one to follow and trust. So in closing, I want to tell everybody that I'm putting on a massive conference in October, Orlando, October 21, 22, 23. I'm absolutely convinced that all the fuckery and muzzling, etc., will be completely done by then, and we'll all be able to freely travel and meet each other in Orlando, Florida. If it doesn't happen, don't worry, we'll live stream, and I have insurance, so you'll all get your money back. Don't worry, it's going to be fine, okay? Auntie Danny's going to handle it for you. But what I want to tell you is this. So many of you would love to meet Tony Rodrigues in the flesh, Brad Olsen in the flesh, Elena Danan in the flesh, Alex Collier in the flesh, Dr. Michael Saller in the flesh, Lowell Johnson, who's been to Inner Earth, Vivian Chavot, who is an Arcturian, and God, I'm forgetting, oh my God, I have a real life Mayan shaman. His name is Quetzal Ra. I just went to Chichen Itza with him, real deal. I've also got, well, a couple of others I can't speak about yet, but I'm bringing together the intergalactic informers, the researchers, the scientists, the indigenous people with their sacred languages that the fucktards at the top of my planet, your planet, our planet, tried to genocide and obviously failed. So we're bringing all of the vibrations, the songs, the secrets, the symphonies of love on and off planet in one place. Boom! I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm like, oh, hurry up, October. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, can you, this is actually the first announcement I'm making. We've got all to do all the PR and marketing, etc. But I am so excited, and I cannot believe every single person I've asked has said yes. Oh, amazing. Amazing. Anyway, all right. So in closing, guys, thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, Tony Rodrigues, Brad Olsen, love you guys. And to the people watching, my beautiful audience and their audiences and new audiences, welcome. I send you my love, and I'll see you soon.